Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Tomasi. I'm 29 years old, and in 2022, I was hospitalized in a residential treatment center in Mason, Ohio called the Lindner Center of Hope, and it saved my life. I've been struggling with depression and anxiety since 2016. I think I've actually been struggling with it longer than that, but that was the first time I started to really openly talk about it with friends and family, and the first time I started to do CBT talk therapy and go on medication. Now, flash forward to 2022 is when things just got really bad. This was obviously after COVID, which I think COVID had a negative effect on a lot of people's mental health. But I was just really not doing well. And people often ask, like, how did I know I needed help? And it was a matter of I couldn't get out of bed anymore. My suicidal ideation was so intense, and I knew that I needed serious help from my family. So we were about to go on a family vacation. I couldn't get myself to go. I said, I need help. And the first person I told was my mom. She kind of rounded the troops in my family, and they found me the Lindner Center of Hope, which is a treatment center in Mason, Ohio. Their website is super informative. I'll link it below. I stayed in Sibsey House. There's also, I believe the name was Williams House. Sounds about right, but I'm not positive. But again, the website's super informative. So I just wanted to start by saying that. Now I want to talk a little bit about my treatment experience. I was there for over 2 months. The plan was to do the 10-day diagnostic testing. And after that, I was re-diagnosed by a treatment team. Even though I knew I had major depressive disorder and anxiety disorder, they rerun like all your testing and you go through it all. It's pretty exhausting, but the results are worth it because you get to know yourself on a deeper level. So I was also diagnosed with a binge eating disorder, social anxiety on top of the general anxiety, and then major depressive disorder was also confirmed over again. I forget the medication that I was on at the time I was going into treatment, but it wasn't working for me, so they safely weaned me off of it. And my doctors came up with a new, I always call it like my little concoction. And right now what works for me is Effexor, also known as venlafaxine, and Abilify, also known as aripiprazole. I think that's how you say it. It's been helping me since 2022. No complaints. Definitely think it's a huge part of what saved my life, but also the work I had to put in and like tap into my toolkit and stuff like that was really, really helpful. So after you kind of go through the testing, you can start like a 30-day program or like 28-day program. And it was all DBT therapy. You had group therapy every day. You had individual therapy every day. It's when I say it's work and exhausting, it's work and exhausting. But you're in such a safe place and you're being seen and heard. And for me, it felt like I was being seen and heard in ways that I hadn't before. So I felt very safe, and it was a great place for me during that time. And I was there from March 2022 to May 2022. I left teaching. I wasn't fully licensed yet, but I'd been in the education teaching world for 3 years. Didn't go back to it. Was fortunate enough to get a job at my dad's business, and that carried me through. And then more recently, I'm now doing full-time content creation. So following my dreams a little bit here, but mental health and mental health advocacy is so important to me, and I couldn't not make a video about it. So without further ado, I wanted to jump into some questions that you guys asked me that I said that I would answer. Let's see. Let's go through them all. Do I have OCD? If so, how do you treat and manage it? I was not diagnosed with OCD. I did, however, learn a lot about OCD when I was in treatment. I'm not going to preach and act like I know, but just want to advocate and say there's so many different forms of OCD, so many different like levels of it. So I do not know how to treat or manage it, but if you feel like you're dealing with it, speaking to a professional is definitely a good place to start. Before that, speaking to friends and family about it, and hopefully that will help you. How do I help someone I think is struggling but doesn't want to talk about it? This is such a hard question. I think what was hard for me was when people tried to advise me and tell me just do this and you'll be fine. Like, no, I'm not okay. That's not helping me. So I would say just sitting and listening and even asking like, hey, I respect that like maybe getting help for you is too much right now. What can I do for you right now? What do you need from me? Instead of assuming you know what's best for them, asking them what's best for them. Ever get anxious when you have zero reason to be? Yes, this is one of my main general anxiety / social anxiety issues is I work myself up. I jump 300 steps ahead. I think of the worst. I think people are mad at me. Like I overthink a lot. So a huge key for me with that is asking myself, like, what is called for now? Like, what do I need to do right now to settle myself down a little bit? Because clearly I'm in an anxious state. And then asking myself, like, is what I'm really worrying about right now that big of a deal? And if it is feeling like a big deal, let's figure out why. And just like breaking it down. And sometimes you can only do this with yourself. And you just need to like go into a quiet space and kind of just even like talk out loud to yourself can be helpful. Did cutting my hair give me a new outlook? That's funny. It's not really mental health related, but it did give me a new, fresh start for sure. Like I felt like I released a lot of energy with my old hair. How did I get out of my funk? I've been in multiple funks in my life. How I got out of the really, really dark one was I needed the professional help. But now how I get out of funks on like a day-to-day is I truly ask myself what's called for now. Like I think that's something a line that my mom taught me, but I learned it also in treatment is like, you need to do what's best for you. No one knows what's best for you besides you. So getting yourself out of a funk is only going to be done by you. It's not going to be done by external sources. It's internal. So looking in is definitely key. Are you religious about taking your meds? If so, what's your secret? If not, does mom help remind? I have a reminder on my phone, 7 a.m. every morning. Even if I'm not awake, the reminder will be there for when I wake up. I take them right away in the morning. I absolutely have to take my meds religiously. Effexor is a very strong medication that if you miss a day, it can really mess with you. That's something that they warned me about before putting me on it. It's something I committed to, so I'm very, very committed to that. There was a day that I missed it before, and it was really not good in my mental health. It was like immediately not doing well. So I definitely preach for taking your medicine on time and daily. Any tips on how to convince a family member to seek treatment? It's really hard, especially if they're treatment resistant and they don't want help. But I would really just say the way you talk about it is going to be so key. Like, you don't want to be like, you need treatment, you need help. Like, that's going to make them push away. But it just has to be a conversation. Like, what do you think you need right now? Could this be something that you need more of a professional help? Is there anything I can do? Would it be helpful if I researched for you? Helping to offer in ways like that is way better than shoving it down their throat and being like, you need to be better, you need to seek help. So that's my best advice there. Is your dog emotional support dog? If so, can you take him on a plane with you loose? He's not an emotional support dog. I never got him registered. I mean, I consider him my emotional support dog, obviously, but like he's not a registered one. You can take any dog on a flight, I think, under 20 pounds, and then to go onto a flight bigger than that, they have to be emotional support. I don't know all the rules, but I know that that's one of them. What is not supportive during your down periods, and what do you need but don't ask for? I would say what's not supportive, again, is just being told what to do. And I think the most supportive thing that anyone can do is just give space and time to those who need it. And I know that can be hard for family members because they're like, I don't want to leave them alone. I don't want to leave them like in a scary place. And I think that it's definitely situational. Obviously, if someone's at risk, you should get them into emergency care. But if you know that if they tell you that like they're okay and they just need some space, just give them that, but then check in on them as well. How do you handle the hard days? I handle them by feeling them. And I do that because I used to avoid, and the more I avoided my feelings, the longer the depressive episodes would last. But if I actually address it and say, yeah, I'm sad today. I woke up sad today. That's weird. Why am I sad? And then if I can't pinpoint it, I still just let myself feel sad. And I think that that's really important because the quicker that you face it and acknowledge it, I think the easier you work through it. It's my best advice. Did I have insurance when you admitted yourself? I did have insurance, but it wasn't covered. This is one of my most, I get very angry, not angry, but I get very frustrated because mental health, it's an epidemic. There's so many people struggling in silence, whether they're talking about it, whether they're seeking help, whether they need help. But it's so expensive and it's so hard to get that people avoid getting help, because why would you want to get help if it's hard to do when you're already in such a poor mental state? So that, from the bottom of my heart, really frustrates me, and I struggle to advocate for residential treatment because I do know how expensive it can be. But I was also in there with people who were taking out loans, who were reaching out to family members and friends for money, who went a bunch of different avenues, and there were some people who were covered, their insurance did cover it. Dealing with family that is not supportive of your mental health, that's so tough, but I mean, they don't deserve to be in your life if they're not going to support your mental health. I know that's pretty cutthroat, but you got to do what's best for you. And I live by that. Anyone that doesn't serve my mental health, I don't want to give my energy to. And when I say serve my mental health, I mean make me feel good, like make me feel good and whole as a person. I don't want you in my life. Do you think constant therapy is an absolute necessity to get and stay mentally healthy? Personally, no. I do think that frequent therapy sessions when you're in the thick of it, like I was going once a week for a while after treatment, and then it became every 2 weeks. But right now I'm at a point where I just reach out to my therapist when I need her. We schedule every couple months, but if it comes up and I'm like, oh, I am feeling really good, I don't need to meet, we just bounce off each other like that. So I don't think that constant therapy is necessary, because therapy can also be so exhausting and draining. So I think like spacing it out is important as well. Any side effects from your medicines? So like I said, Effexor and Abilify, I would say the only side effects would be if I stopped taking the Effexor, it would negatively affect me. SSRI from PCP, or would you recommend therapist? It made me feel better getting diagnosed by a psychiatrist and getting my medicine through a psychiatrist, but I do know people who do it through their PCP. So it's whatever works best for you, I think. Advice for a parent of a child with mental health issues and how to best help them when they don't want it. I touched on this a little earlier, but I think it's just important to remind them that you love them, you care for them, you respect that they don't want to seek help right now, but let them know that like you are worried about them and you want to help, but you don't want to come on too strong. I think the more open you are with your child about it, the more seen that they're going to feel. And like I felt more seen from my parents when they started to ask me what I needed from them instead of trying to tell me how to get better. Instead of being like, go outside, go for a walk, go do this, go do that. They started being like, is there anything I can do for you right now? Do you even want to talk to me right now? Just asking me and being very gentle with me, and I appreciated that a lot. Could you have done it without the inpatient care? Personally, and I know that this is like very, blunt. No, I don't think I would be alive if I didn't go and get the help that I did in 2022. I really think that the suicidal ideation would have driven me to a scarier point, and I think that Lindner Center of Hope saved my life. I give a lot of credit to them because it was the first time I felt seen in my life. And it was just an amazing experience. And when I was in treatment, I also met people who had been to other treatment centers and like did not have similar experiences and like did not have great experiences. And that was upsetting to hear, but it also made me feel so lucky that my first experience was the Lindner Center of Hope, because it saved me. It really did. How many medications did you try before finding one that worked for you? Probably like 4 or 5. Some ones in the past that I was on was like Wellbutrin, Lexapro. There was another couple that I'm like, I just forget. The medicines that's currently helping me, again, it's Effexor and Abilify. Always talk to a doctor. Don't just try to get your hands on these things. It's really important to get prescribed what's best for you. Have you ever gotten physical symptoms from the anxiety? Definitely. My anxiety carries a lot in my throat and like my chest, and it'll feel like a lot of pressure. I also get very, very hot and overstimulated in that sense. It can definitely show up physically. And my depression shows up physically by like just depleting me and usually just like knocks me out. that's it for the questions on my Instagram story, but I also just wanted to add in that I'm not perfect and I'm not healed. I am healing. I think I will forever be in a state of healing because of what I've been through and what I went through and the traumas. I still get triggered by certain things, and I'm always a work in progress. Day by day is how I take it, and I've come so far, and to reflect on where I'm ending 2024 compared to where I was when I was ending 2022, it's like night and day. So all I want to do with this platform and the mental health advocacy is tell you guys that I know exactly how you're feeling.